I shouldn't have said what I said in that interview. That's the truth. Because if I had just stayed quiet, if I had swallowed my pride, none of this would have happened. I walked out of Sterling Voss with $2 in my pocket and rent due in 4 days. And somehow that was the moment everything changed. You ever leave a room feeling smaller than when you walked in? That was me. Derek Holloway's laugh was still ringing in my ears when the elevator doors closed. "You're damaged goods." That's what he called me. Damaged, because my wife died, because I chose to sit beside her hospital bed instead of chasing promotions, because I had a 6-year-old daughter waiting for me after school. I stared at my reflection in the elevator mirror. My suit was 5 years old. My eyes looked 10 years older. Maybe he was right. Maybe the city didn't want fathers. It wanted machines. But then I remembered Sophie that morning, her small hands fixing my tie. "Are you going to be the boss today, Daddy?" I had smiled and said maybe. Now I wasn't even sure I'd still be a tenant by Friday. When I stepped out into the lobby, my chest felt tight. I wanted to go back upstairs, pick up my resume from the floor, apologize, beg. But something in me refused. I lost my wife to leukemia. I would not lose my dignity to a man who'd never missed a meal. So I pushed through the revolving doors. The sky cracked open. Rain poured down like the universe was laughing. I checked my phone. 3:44 p.m. A text from the school. "Sophie is the last one here again." Guilt hit harder than the rejection. I started walking fast, then jogging, and that's when I heard it. "Liam!" A woman's voice. Desperate. I almost ignored it, until I turned around and saw the most powerful woman in New York City running toward me in the rain. I thought she was going to fire me twice. That was my first instinct. When Evelyn Sterling reached me, soaked in rain and barefoot on 5th Avenue, I didn't see a billionaire. I saw trouble. "Mr. Harper, wait." She was breathless, shaking, not polished, not composed, human. And that confused me more than the interview did. "I'm late," I said quickly. "I need to get my daughter." Her eyes flickered at that word. "Daughter? What's her name?" she asked. The question felt too personal. "Sophie," I answered carefully. Something changed in her face. Not pity, not curiosity. Shock. For a second she looked like she might cry. That made me uneasy. "I'll get you there," she said suddenly. "My car is here, please." I almost laughed. 5 minutes ago her company called me damaged goods. Now the CEO was offering me a ride. "I don't need charity," I muttered. "It's not charity," she said, stepping closer. "It's necessary." Necessary? Who talks like that? But then I looked at my phone again. 3:49 p.m. Sophie sitting alone. I swallowed my pride again. "Fine," I said. "But if I'm late because of you, you won't be." Her driver pulled up in a black Maybach that probably cost more than my entire neighborhood. Inside, the world went quiet. Warm leather, heated seats, silence. I felt out of place instantly. Evelyn sat across from me, watching me like I was a puzzle she was trying to solve. "Derek won't be a problem anymore," she said softly. "What does that mean?" "I fired him." I blinked. "You, what?" "He failed an integrity test." That surprised me. She didn't defend him. She defended me. For a strange second, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Seen? But then her eyes dropped to my resume folder. "To confirm something," she whispered almost to herself. "What was your wife's maiden name?" The question landed like ice in my veins. Why would she care about Sarah? "Daniels," I said slowly. "Why?" Evelyn reached into her purse and pulled out a silver locket. Her hands were trembling, because when she opened it, I saw my wife's face inside. My heart stopped. I don't mean metaphorically. I mean I actually forgot how to breathe, because inside that locket was Sarah. You ever see something so impossible your brain refuses to accept it? That was me. "That's my wife," I whispered. Evelyn didn't argue. She didn't look surprised. She looked broken. "Her name wasn't Sarah Daniels," she said quietly. "It was Isabella Sterling." I shook my head immediately. "No, she grew up in foster care. She told me everything." "Did she?" Evelyn asked softly. That question hurt more than Derek's insult, because for 3 years I thought I knew every piece of Sarah's story. Every scar, every fear, every dream. Now this stranger in a $1,000 suit was telling me my wife had been hiding something that big. "She hated money," I said defensively. "She clipped coupons. She wore the same boots for 5 winters." Evelyn let out a shaky breath. "She hated what our father did with money." "Our father," the words echoed. I stared at her face again. Same jawline, same sharp cheekbones, same piercing blue eyes. The same eyes Sophie had. My stomach twisted. "You're saying—" I couldn't finish the sentence. "That I'm your daughter's aunt," she said. Silence filled the car. I felt angry. Not at her, at Sarah. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you carry that alone? She ran away at 19, Evelyn continued. She fell in love with someone my father didn't approve of. He threatened to ruin him, so she disappeared. She never told me she was running from anyone, I said. She wouldn't, Evelyn replied. She protected people, even from us. That sounded exactly like Sarah, and that scared me. The car slowed outside St. Jude's Elementary. I grabbed the door handle. This doesn't change anything, I said firmly. Sophie is my daughter. I know, Evelyn said, but it changes everything for her. I stepped out into the rain. Sophie ran into my arms 5 seconds later, and when she looked up at Evelyn through the open car door, Evelyn gasped, because Sophie didn't just look like Sarah. She looked like a Sterling. I didn't like the way Evelyn looked at my daughter, not because it was cruel, because it was too intense, like she had just found something she'd been starving for. Daddy, who's she? Sophie asked, clutching my coat. Her voice was small, careful. This is an old friend of Mommy's, I said. The words felt strange in my mouth. Evelyn knelt down in the rain. A billionaire, on the sidewalk, in stockings. Hi, Sophie, she said softly. I knew your mom when she was your age. Sophie's eyes widened. You did? Evelyn nodded, but her lips trembled. There was something raw in her expression. Not performance, not strategy, grief. And against my will, I felt it too. Because for a second I didn't see a CEO. I saw a sister who never got to say goodbye. We can't stand here, I said, pulling Sophie closer. We need to go. Come to my penthouse, Evelyn said quickly. Just for a little while. I have pictures of your mom. Sophie looked up at me. Hope, curiosity, trust. That look broke me. Just for a bit, I said carefully. No pressure. No lawyers. Evelyn gave a small nod. Inside the car, Sophie warmed up fast, asking questions about Aunt Evelyn and whether Mommy used to like chocolate. Evelyn answered gently. Honestly, I watched her. She wasn't trying to impress Sophie. She was trying not to fall apart. And that confused me, because powerful people don't look that fragile. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I ignored it. It rang again, and again. I answered. Liam Harper? A distorted male voice said. Yes? You just left Sterling Voss with Evelyn Sterling. My chest tightened. Who is this? You have the girl. Cold spread through me. Get out of that car now. The line went dead. I looked at Sophie, then at Evelyn. Before I could speak, a black SUV slammed into us, and the world exploded into metal and glass. The sound was violent, metal crushing, glass splintering, Sophie screaming. My body moved before my mind did. I threw myself over her. Daddy, she cried. I've got you, I said. Even though my ears were ringing and my hands were shaking, the car spun once, twice. Then it stopped. For a second, everything was silent except the rain. I looked up. The driver was slumped forward. Roger in the front was groaning. Evelyn was pressed against the far door, wide-eyed, pale. You okay? I shouted at her. She nodded, but her breath was shallow. Then I saw them. 3 men stepping out of the black SUV. Calm, focused, not worried about the crash. One of them had something heavy in his hand. They're not here to help, I muttered. What? Evelyn whispered. They're here for her. Her fingers tightened around Sophie's sleeve. That was the moment something shifted between us. Not romance, not yet, alliance, fear shared. The first blow hit the window. Thud. The reinforced glass cracked but didn't shatter. Sophie started crying harder. Lock the doors, Evelyn said, fumbling for her phone. They're locked, I answered, scanning for exits. The second hit was harder. Crack! Spiderweb fractures spread across the glass. Evelyn looked at me. Not like a CEO, like a woman asking for direction. And for the first time that day, I felt strong. Listen to me, I said calmly. When I say go, you grab Sophie and run toward traffic. Not the bridge railing, toward people. You're coming too, she said. There was something in her voice. Urgent, personal. I held her gaze for half a second too long. I'm not leaving my daughter. Neither am I, she replied. That answer surprised me. The man outside raised his arm again. The window wouldn't hold. Ready, I said. I kicked the door open. Rain and noise flooded in. Run! We bolted into traffic, and behind us, they chased. I've never run that fast in my life. Not when I was younger, not when I played ball in college, not even when Sarah went into cardiac arrest and they rushed her into surgery. But fear does something to you. It sharpens everything. Sophie, hold tight! I shouted, lifting her into my arms. Cars were honking, people yelling. Evelyn stumbled beside me, barefoot on wet pavement. For a second, she almost fell. I caught her wrist. Her skin was cold, trembling. "Take your shoes off," I ordered. "They're already off," she said breathlessly. Even in chaos, that almost made me smile. Almost. Behind us, heavy footsteps pounded. "Stop them!" one of the men shouted. They weren't hiding anymore. This wasn't random. This was targeted. "Who are they?" I demanded as we ran. "My cousin," Evelyn gasped. "Richard." Of course. Money again. Power again. And somehow my daughter in the middle of it. We reached the pedestrian side of the bridge. A narrow maintenance stairwell was ahead. Locked. Perfect. Sophie buried her face into my neck. "Daddy, I'm scared." "I know, baby," I whispered. "Close your eyes." Evelyn grabbed the gate, rattling it. "It won't open." The men were close now, 10 feet. I spotted a loose metal pipe near construction debris. Leverage. I jammed it into the chain and pulled with everything I had left. My arms screamed. My vision blurred. For a second I thought about rent, about rejection, about being called damaged goods. And something inside me snapped. The lock broke. "Go," I shouted. Evelyn rushed through with Sophie. I slammed the gate and jammed the pipe through the handles. The first attacker crashed into it seconds later. He was furious. Wild, but trapped. We ran down the stairs into darkness. Rain masked the noise above. For the first time since the crash, we stopped. Evelyn leaned against the wall, shaking. "You saved us," she whispered. I shook my head. I protected my daughter. Her eyes held mine. And me. That moment lingered longer than it should have, until I remembered. If they tried once, they would try again. And this time they wouldn't miss. I never thought I'd hide a billionaire in a garbage truck. But life has a strange sense of humor. 2 hours later, we were covered in mud. Standing under a highway overpass in Queens. 3 sanitation trucks idled in the dark. Marco stepped out of the lead truck, squinting at me. "Liam, you look like hell." "Feel worse," I muttered. He glanced at Evelyn. Even in an oversized hoodie and filthy stockings, she carried herself differently. Controlled. Dangerous. "Who's the princess?" Marco asked. "I'm the owner of Sterling Voss," Evelyn said calmly. Marco blinked, then laughed. "I didn't." "She's not joking," I said. "And we need to get into her building without being seen." Marco's smile faded. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. "Kidnapping warrant out on you," he added casually. "Your name's on police radio." Evelyn inhaled sharply. I felt anger rise again. "They flipped it," she said. "Richard moved fast." "Can you help us or not?" I asked Marco. He studied Sophie in my arms. She was quiet, too quiet. "Get in truck number 2, Marco grunted. "Smells like fish guts. Don't complain." Evelyn didn't hesitate. She climbed the greasy ladder like she'd done it her whole life. That surprised me. Inside, the truck was dark, cold, rough. Sophie curled against my chest. Evelyn sat across from us, knees drawn in. The truck started moving. In the darkness, she reached out and gently brushed mud off Sophie's sleeve. Small gesture, soft, not CEO. "Aunt, you didn't sell the locket," she said quietly to me. I shook my head. It was Sarah's. Silence. Then she reached for my hand. Not romantic, not dramatic, just steady. For the first time since Sarah died, I didn't feel alone carrying the weight of her memory. The truck slowed. Marco's voice crackled through. "Sterling Tower loading dock. You've got 3 minutes. 3 minutes to walk back into the place that rejected me. 3 minutes to protect my daughter from men who wanted her gone." Evelyn looked at me. "No matter what happens," she said softly, "thank you for loving my sister." That hit harder than the crash. Because in her eyes, I wasn't damaged. I was chosen. And for a dangerous second, I felt something warmer than survival. I never thought I'd walk back into Sterling Tower smelling like garbage. But there I was. Mud on my sleeves, grease on my hands, my daughter in my arms, and Evelyn beside me, barefoot, fierce, unstoppable. The loading dock doors shut behind us with a heavy clang. "Service elevator," she whispered. Her voice had changed again. "Steel. CEO mode." She swiped a cracked keycard from her shoe. The light blinked green. As the elevator rose, my stomach twisted. 20 floors up, I was an embarrassment. 50 floors up, I was walking into a war. Sophie squeezed my neck. "Daddy, are we in trouble?" I kissed her hair. "Not while I'm here." Evelyn watched that, and something softened in her expression. The doors opened. Boardroom, glass walls, long table, expensive suits. Richard Sterling stood at the head like he already owned the future. He looked polished, smug, until he saw us. "Evelyn," he said slowly, "you look unwell." Security moved. I stepped forward instinctively. I didn't have a weapon. I didn't need one. "You don't get to touch her." I said quietly. Richard's eyes flicked to me. Recognition. Disgust. Ah, the single father. The words were meant to belittle me, but they didn't land the same anymore. Evelyn walked past me, leaving muddy footprints on $1 million carpet. I'm perfectly well, she said. And I'm not alone. She placed her hands gently on Sophie's shoulders. The room shifted. You could feel it. Energy changing. This, Evelyn said clearly, is Isabella Sterling's daughter. Silence. Richard laughed. Prove it. I stepped forward. I placed the silver locket on the table, then Sophie's birth certificate. The oldest board member picked it up. He looked at Sophie, at her eyes, then at Evelyn, and I watched something rare happen. Power hesitate. Richard's confidence cracked, just a little, and that was all we needed. I didn't expect the room to go that quiet. You'd think men worth billions would argue louder. Instead, they just stared at Sophie, at her eyes, at the locket, at Evelyn. Richard recovered first. This is emotional manipulation, he snapped. A random child and a story about a runaway sister. His voice was smooth again, but I saw the sweat near his collar. Evelyn didn't raise hers. She didn't need to. Call legal, she said calmly to the board. Call the trust officers in Zurich. Activate emergency DNA protocol. A murmur rippled across the table. Richard slammed his hand down. You can't just walk in here filthy and demand control. Control? Evelyn repeated softly. I'm protecting what belongs to her. She turned slightly, brushing Sophie's curls back from her face. The gesture was small, protective, instinctive, and I felt something strange in my chest watching it. Because Sophie didn't look scared anymore. She looked curious, studying this powerful woman who spoke like a storm but touched her like glass. Daddy, Sophie whispered, tugging my sleeve. Is she really Mommy's sister? I swallowed. Yes. Evelyn's breath caught at that word. Yes. No hesitation. I didn't even realize I'd chosen a side until that moment. Richard noticed too. His gaze sharpened at me. You're enjoying this, aren't you? He hissed. From rejected applicant to kingmaker. I'm just a dad, I said evenly. You're the one who made it about power. The oldest board member cleared his throat. The resemblance is undeniable, he murmured. And if the trust clause is valid? Richard's face drained of color. You're gambling the entire company on sentiment. He shouted. No, Evelyn replied. She stepped forward, shoulders straight, voice steady. I'm gambling it on truth. And for the first time since this started, I didn't see the Ice Queen. I saw a woman who had lost her sister once and wasn't going to lose her niece again. The vote was called, and as hands slowly began to rise, Richard realized he wasn't in control anymore. I didn't realize I was shaking until it was over. One by one, the board members raised their hands, not for Richard, for Evelyn, for Sophie, for truth. The final vote tipped the balance. Majority secured. Richard's chair scraped loudly against the marble floor as he stood. You think this is finished? He spat. But no one was looking at him anymore. Security, real security this time, stepped forward, not toward us, toward him. As they escorted him out, his eyes locked on mine. Hatred, blame. I held his stare, because for the first time in months, I wasn't afraid. When the doors closed behind him, the room felt lighter, not victorious, just free. Evelyn exhaled slowly. Her hand was still resting on Sophie's shoulder. She looked at me. Not as a CEO, not as a Sterling, as a woman who had almost lost everything twice. Thank you, she said quietly. Those two words carried more weight than any job offer. I nodded. I'd do it again. And I meant it. Later, when the boardroom emptied, Sophie was sitting in one of the big leather chairs, spinning slowly and giggling like it was a game. The innocence of it made my chest ache. Evelyn watched her with soft eyes. She has Isabella's laugh, she whispered. I stood beside her, close, closer than we'd ever been. There was tension there, not rushed, not dramatic, just awareness, shared trauma, shared responsibility. You're not damaged goods, she said suddenly without looking at me. I almost laughed. You heard that? I heard everything. Silence settled between us, comfortable this time. I'm offering you a position, she added. Director of Operations. That's not why I helped you, I replied. I know. That answer meant more than the offer. Sophie ran back toward us. Daddy, are we rich now? I crouched down and hugged her. We were rich the whole time, I said softly. Because I wasn't walking out of that building as a failure anymore. I was walking out as a father who chose dignity over desperation. And somehow, that led me right back inside.